Welcome to Crow's Corner. I'm Jenny. In this episode of the Hogwarts Greenhouse series, I'll be making the pots and containers and filling them with all of the plants and flowers that you'll see in the greenhouse. I want to start though with something that was a bit of a fail. I attempted to make my own pots, and I found this sort of pattern, this archy looking pattern online, and decided to give it a go. And I'm leaving this in and sharing this with you because I'm hoping that somebody could use this and kind of tweak it or make it their own. But here's where I went wrong. After you make the little curved part of the main part of the pot, it said to cut out a straight strip of paper to add in the rim, and you can obviously tell that's not going to work on this. It will not lay flat. It should have been arched as well. I could have gone back and really worked at this, and I think it was one of those times where I was just like, I don't want to deal with this. So here you go. Here's how it turns out. I think with some tweaking, it could possibly be a good pot, but I just wasn't in the mood to fuss with it. As for the bottom, you just kind of sit it on a flat piece of paper and fill it with glue and then trim the bottom. And, they're not terrible at this point, but I don't know, it's just when you add that rim, that top edge, it just looked really, really bad to me. Nothing was consistent. I didn't do well measuring everything. I tried by painting them all with my black paint and Mod Podge mixture just to seal it up, and then making a terracotta paint color, mixing together about 3 or 4 colors, I believe. They just look terrible. I mean, I even tried here, you can see I was using some chalk pastels to give them a little bit of depth of color and weathering, and I just really, really was not happy. So my solution was to get rid of all of these terrible pots and bring in some that were already made for me. And this was the right way to go. There's 3 different types here, 3 different brands. The ones that are white are my absolute favorite. These are by Era from Bentley House Minis. They're 3D printed. They're perfectly proportioned, and she's a variety of sizes, especially these big ones. I loved that she had some big ones in there. I would highly recommend going over to Bentley House Minis, going over to her website and purchasing these 3D printed pots. They are the best. These others are a couple of different varieties of terracotta pots that I found. The ones in the middle were from Temu, I believe, and the ones on the right are from Amazon. The ones in the middle they didn't look as realistic to me. And both sets of those, they did not have a great variety of sizes. So again, Eras are the best, and here they are. Here are Eras, and I found that the paint went on really, really well. I did have to do a second coat on these, but that's typical of most things. They even have the little holes in the bottom like you would see on a realistic pot, a little drainage hole. I loved them. They were great. And I'm trying with these to age them, and I find that there's a little bit of a difficulty because the usual sort of dirty paint water with black and brown added, it was like soaking into the terracotta so quickly that I had no time to sort of blend it, and it was like the color was really saturated and focused into one area of it. So I did manage to make them work. I just added some extra water, and it kind of spread it out a little bit, but again, I couldn't control where it was flowing. It just didn't flow at all. It was just one little spot that you could, see that black on. I did try to go in with some of the Distress Oxide I guess it's a paint, I don't know, it's more of a stamp. But I usually love this stuff, and as I was putting it on there, it just wasn't really showing up much. I mean, you can see it looks like absolutely nothing. It really took a lot of coats, a lot of swipes of this to get it to show up on these little terracotta pots. You can see I kind of ended up adding a little bit of both to the pots because the straight up paint water, dirty water was just too dark, and the stress oxide was just a little bit too light. So it was a combination of both. I even tried to add in some mossy looking stuff with the green distress oxide, and it was just so faint and pale. It just didn't stick well to the terracotta. I mean, it does show some color, you can see, but this really took a lot of effort, a lot of coats. I eventually then added in a little bit of chalk pastel to give it some more mossy appearance, and that worked fine. It looks great, but if you touch it, you get chalk all over your fingers, so it's just not very practical. And here with Aira's pots, I was able to use my typical dirty wash to age these up, and it worked absolutely lovely. I didn't get any footage of me adding any like mossy green or anything, but the distress oxide works perfect on this. And you could also go in with some other watered down paint colors if you wanted, or just glue some regular moss on there. So these are some little sacks of, I guess it could be seeds, but I use them as soil, little sacks of soil. And so if you just take a little bit of fabric, this is a canvas, and you sew across the bottom and side, not the top, do not sew the top shut yet. Then you can turn this inside out and you will have a perfect little sack to have like seeds or grains in for your greenhouse, or soil like I'm doing. This tool is a wonderful little sewing tool. I'll look it up and I'll include it in the description, but it helps to turn things right side out. And then you can, oh, there's my cat in the background. Hello, Owen. You can turn the top over a little bit just to have sort of an open bag look, or you can turn it towards the inside after you stuff it with soil or whatever you're stuffing it with, and then sew that top shut so it's a sealed bag. I always like to use this. I've mentioned it in previous videos. If you haven't checked out the other Hogwarts Greenhouse series, go check that playlist out. It's in the description. And this is just a coffee and Mod Podge mixture that I use for soil. Once you stuff this full, you can squish it and bend it so that it looks like it's kind of a real bag with wrinkles and folds in it. And this will dry hard, so it'll dry in place. So give it as many folds as you like. Use the same mixture for this little planting box. It's very simple. I didn't show you how I made it, but it's just a box made out of basswood. You can see some more furniture that I've built in the previous episode if you would like to check that out. This one was very easy. It was just 4 pieces for the sides and 1 for the bottom. You can make it any shape you like, any kind of rectangle or square you like. And for this, this one is just filled with soil, but you can also dig like little holes so it looks like they're about to plant something, and I did that in one of the other ones that I made. And then here we are filling up Aris pots. And again, I love them so much. I really would encourage you to just go on over there and get these if you're not into making your own pots. These little tiny ones were so hard to fill, but they are very cute. Now I'm just gonna be staining this planter box and these soil bags, just using a little bit of brown paint and really water that down. For the planting box, I start with a really warm base of the stain. And then I add in a dirty wash to age it a little bit. And for the bags, I took a little bit of my dirty water and added it to the warm brown to create a deeper, darker brown. And I'm going to use that for aging up these bags. They're just way too brand new and light looking. Use a lot of water because it will soak into the fabric. And these are rock hard by this point. That mixture of glue and coffee has hardened and dried. I love the way these turn out. And using more Distress Oxide, I go in and I give these a little bit of weathering and some moss. You know, if you don't have Distress Oxide, you could use chalk or chalk pastels. You could just use some really watered down paint, or you could just glue some cut up bits of moss on here. Dried moss, of course. And this little basket's going to be holding some flowers and some plants. And again, it was just too bright, just like the bags. So I go in and age it down with some of this dirty paint water. I got this basket on Temu. If you haven't checked out the Temu haul, you could do that. And just to make this look a little bit more weathered and worn, I'm adding some of this gray Distress Oxide. I just want it to look like it's a little bit older and well used. Adding in some green as well to give it a little bit of a moldy look. Not sure why I think the Hogwarts greenhouse would be full of moldy and moss-covered things, but I guess nobody's thought to use Scourgify. And here we are starting to fill up all of these planters with some flowers and plants. These are just some dried plants, dried flowers. I really don't know where I got these. I will see if I can find something similar and place it in my Amazon list. Most of these other little dried vines and dried flowers are all from Temu. Which again, if you haven't seen the Temu haul, go check that out. These dried flowers are wonderful, and there's no way I could have made these on my own, so I'm really happy to have found them, and they were pretty inexpensive. Use a little bit of hot glue just to kind of hold it in place initially, but you definitely want to put some tacky glue or some kind of other glue on there that will hold it together in the long run. I really found this quite fun and therapeutic. It's just a little bit of a miniature floral arrangement, if you will. It was a lot of fun. I recommend mixing a bunch of different sized and textured plants, different colors. That will make it look more interesting and a little bit more realistic. And of course, if you're into it, you could try making your own little magical plants. I'm sure, Hogwarts and the Wizarding World in general has a lot of really cool magical plants. So this little plant here, with these leaves, is again something I got on Temu that I was not happy with, as was, but I didn't want it to go to waste. So I figured, yeah, hey, I could use these leaves. I just cut them down to smaller size leaves, whatever shape I want them to be in, and they worked great for that. And I just took this little twig I had and added the leaves. And in the second planter box, I decided to leave some big holes. I wanted it to look like it was a work in progress, and so I stuck a little spade in there, and I didn't fill the whole planter box with plants, just a few. And a little tip, add in like your pots and dig those holes before the glue dries in your soil mixture. I even added some of the soil to the outside there next to that pot that's on the ground, just so it looks like things have spilled out and they're a little bit messy in what they're doing. Here's that little basket, just added in a few greens and a few flowers. I think it's such a sweet looking little thing. These are the planter tables that I made in the previous video. And I'm just adding in a few vines. They're kind of sparse, there's not a lot going on. I was thinking maybe they were sort of out of season or were just starting to grow. Using those little leaves that I cut out earlier, making a couple more plants for this planting table. I added a little bit of moss around the base of each plant. And I ended up filling up several of these pots with soil and laid them on their side, so it looks like they had tipped over and were spilling out. And then I filled a bunch of them with just straight up moss. I thought that looked fun, but some of them got plants and flowers as well. Cutting up the moss makes the plant matter a little bit smaller and looks a little bit more realistic for this scale. Burn your finger on hot glue, kids. It's not fun. Use your imagination when you're making these plants. I mean, you could use tissue paper for the leaves, construction paper that you maybe like weathered up. There's a lot of things you could do for this. Old fabric maybe with some glue painted on it so that it stiffens into shape. If I haven't said it already, all of the moss that I'm using is just dried craft moss that you can get at any craft store. I'm sure you could probably even get it at Walmart or online, Amazon. It's everywhere. These are my favorite little dried flowers. I pull off the glue on the bottom just because that was kind of very obvious and I didn't want to see it, and it looks better in the pot without it. But I love these little flowers. I think they're really, really pretty. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It's free and you can hit the like button, and all of those likes and all of those subscribes really help me go a long way in getting this channel off the ground. And thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great one. Goodbye.